So how do you want to do the intro? Do you want to do it? Welcome back to Occasionally Philosophical. I'm Doug, or I'm Mark, and introduce me, or do you want me to do it?
I'll do it this time.
All right. So whenever you're ready, I'm all set up. So.
Yeah. Welcome back to, what is this, episode 23 of Occasionally Philosophical. Yes. We're on episode 23. Welcome back. I am your co-host, Mark, and this is my other co-host,
Doug.
Co-host? Yeah, whatever.
Well, I'm a co-host.
We're both
We're both co-hosts. So where are we at this week, kid?
So last week we talked about fear, right?
Right, yeah.
And then we led into today's episode, which we're going to talk about human exceptionalism.
Oh, the Christine Webb?
Yeah. We kind of touched on it a few episodes back, but, we'll just revisit it again and then.
Well, I think when we were in our prep before we actually turned everything on, one of the things that we're trying to wrap up here in this first arc of our journey into the world of YouTubing and podcasting was that we're looking at the stories that we live in, right? And how those stories form and how they influence the way that we react to current events. And there's a lot of current events that we react to.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you don't understand where we're coming from, our reactions to current events can seem a little like, what?
Yeah.
And over the course of your life, we've had a lot of conversations about why people argue, right? And why we can't seem to make progress. And one of them is that the stories that we live in, right? And then my own intellectual journey, when I ran across Daniel Quinn and Ishmael and that idea of this story that a civilization or a culture enacts just clicked with me. And so that's sort of at least what I hope that we're getting to the end of. So we're talking about the different kind of stories that we can live in, both at that civilizational level and then the various little sub-stories that we live in that cause the conflict.
Right. And I think, with Ishmael and then even The Arrogant Ape with Christine Webb, it's ultimately the main story is the human exceptionalism, and kind of the human exceptionalism branches out into all these other stories. But the human exceptionalism, the world was made for us.
Yeah,
that's the all right, and then that's all the stories kind of flow out of that.
Everything else comes out of that. So
yeah,
at least that's the position that we're staking out here.
Yeah.
And always open to amending should information come our way that would change that.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
So what is this? Can you, briefly summarize human exceptionalism as we've talked about? And
all right, let me see. How would I do that? All right. Where's that Jeopardy theme song, dude? While I'm thinking. No.
Programming.
But human exceptionalism is the idea that by being human, just by being human, it affords us an elevated moral standing.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty.
Is there anything you want to add to that? Or do you think that that's good enough for us to start with?
I think that's a good place to start, because I mean, essentially, that's like the idea in Ishmael, is that at some point we decided that we were smarter than the gods, or we decided to be the gods. Like, why are we leaving it
Well,
up
we
to them?
usurped the role of the gods.
Yeah.
Because what was it? The way that Quinn put it in Ishmael was, what was the role of the gods? Right, was to decide who lives and who dies.
Right.
And by locking up the food, the agricultural move, that was man deciding who lives and who dies, who has access to the food and who doesn't.
Right.
Right. All right. So that's the story that we're kind of trapped in. Right.
Yeah.
that higher level mythology of how things got to be the way they are.
Right.
Which I always find to be an interesting thought experiment. Have you ever tried this one, Mark? I don't know if I've ever hit you with it before. But like if you're sitting outside or just sitting anywhere and you just close your eyes and try to imagine nothing, like there's nothing there, and then open your eyes and then look around and go, where did all this come from? Yeah. Well, because that to me encapsulates what Quinn was getting at, like that his definition of mythology, which was a story of how things got to be the way they are.
Right.
Right. And so when we encounter some situation in the world, whatever it is, and you and I have a difference of opinion, a lot of times what we're arguing about is how things got to be in this situation that neither one of us like.
Right. Yeah.
Now, you think that your reason for why this situation sucks is the right one, and I think that my reason for why this situation sucks is the right one. And instead of solving the situation and making it okay, we spend all of our time arguing over who knocked over the milk instead of just getting a paper towel and cleaning it up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and actually, that's kind of a lot of the discourse online in general. You know, I mean, a lot of this, because I feel like a lot of this discourse happens online. You know, it's like, because a lot of these arguments about how things came, or why you look at something one way and I look at something a different way, those conversations don't happen as much in person, I think, at least in my world. Maybe it's just because, you're at work. A lot of the time you're interacting with people, it's like you're at work. So it's like we don't want to get into arguments at work because we all got to work together. But so it's like you see these extreme opinions online. But I feel like I'm getting off track a little bit. But anyways, at what point would you say that we kind of decided that we're the best?
You mean as as humans?
Well, like, when did we decide that we were like the center of the universe, that the world was? I mean, I guess you kind of already answered that with Quinn.
Well, I'm not sure that, like, when you say we, right? Like, that's all of humanity. That's the way that I interpret the question.
Yeah, like, because I mean, obviously not we, like me and you, because we was born into this world the way.
But I even think that maybe the question is not well formed, right? Because, like, we in Western civilization, the weird culture, we definitely believe that we are, a cut above, that our standing trumps the needs of any other entities on the planet. Yeah. Right. So that, but I don't think that that's universally human.
Well, yeah, the we, I guess, more correctly would be attributed to the takers. If you're taking the taker-leaver dichotomy.
Right, would be more of the takers, like the human exceptionalism is a characteristic of what Quinn called the taker mentality. Yeah. Where perhaps the lever mentality is that more symbiotic relationship with the natural world.
Yeah.
In broad strokes. You know, we don't want to Well, don't want to nail ourselves down too much, but that seems to be a fairly good definition, right?
Yeah, well, and also too, I mean, to your point, like we mentioned before, that there was like that lever tribe basically in Africa where it was like, oh, well, who of you guys is the best hunter? And they were just like, what do you mean the best hunter? We all hunt. They're like, but who like catches the most stuff? They're like, what do you mean? Like we all hunt. Like, so that's that mentality. Where none of us is exceptional. We're just doing what we do, right? You know, where that's that non-weird, you know.
Which is very hard for those of us that were raised in the weird, Western educated, industrialized, rich and democratic mindset.
Yeah.
Because all of the educational systems that drive instrumental rationality, all that stuff is just part of the soup that we live in. So when we hear about these other ways of being in the world, the first reaction is, ugh, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have all of the comforts and conveniences. What's normal?
Right.
Right. And are electric lights and indoor plumbing and all that normal? Well, they are for us.
Yeah.
When we go camping, many of us complain about the lack of some of those things.
Right.
Or, the reason that we go camping is to get away from it,
right.
to be in nature for a little while.
Yeah.
So that we act as if we are the center of everything, I think is the root of the problem. Honestly.
Yeah.
And I have this intuition that exceptionalism is the root of that problem, although at present, here on January 12th, I'm not willing to say with certainty that it is, but it does certainly seem that way, because of the way that we behave.
Right.
I mean, and again, not you and me specifically, but humanity writ large.
Right.
With the various things that we're doing in order to keep the technological society moving, the things that we do to the environment, right? They're, on the one hand, from the instrumental perspective, well, yeah, that's good because it keeps the engine running. We're making new things. We're building data centers, and we're computing, and we're going back to the moon, and we're going to terraform Mars, and all this great stuff. But at what cost? And it's that, and because of the story that's being told, that cost isn't part of the picture that we're always looking at.
Yeah, we're just.
So what do you think? Where do you think our species, human arrogance, if we're going to run with this model, right?
Yeah.
Where do you think, or in your experience, you operate in a different world than I do. So where in your experience, do you see this played out most clearly?
I think you alluded to it already, is our blatant disregard for the environment. My entire life, right, I've been hearing about how we're destroying the environment. And from my, reading history before my life, they've been talking about it for a long time, back when the Industrial Revolution, maybe not initially, but after a little bit, they started thinking, all right, what are we doing? Burning this coal and dumping whatever byproducts in rivers and people, so it's like that arrogance of, no, we just do whatever we want, whether other species are becoming endangered or even worse, extinct, whether we're ruining their ecosystem, and even beyond that, actually ruining other humans' ecosystem with like blatant disregard, One of the recent headlines I saw was about one of these AI centers, like I believe it was in Tennessee, where, you know, it's just the residents are complaining about the pollution, right? That this is causing it. There's a weird smell in the air. And, you know, so it's like, even we don't even care about other people in the sense that like our quest for technological advancement or even in the effort to try to fix problems, it's like we're just kind of like making it worse. You know, it maybe not exactly parallels, but it's that plane, the airplane metaphor in Ishmael, where it's like, yeah, we're flying, and everything. But it's like, I don't know. The way I look at it is we're falling, right? And the earth is it seems to me that if we continue on our course with this arrogant attitude of like, the earth is ours, we can do whatever we want with it, it's going to eventually, maybe not in my lifetime but it's eventually going to lead to some sort of extinction level event for us. And it kind of reminds me of like, oh, we're destroying the other arrogance part of that is like, even on the environmentalist side, is we're destroying the earth. It kind of reminds me of that George Carlin bit, like, the earth is going to be fine. We're destroying an environment that's habitable for us. The earth will be fine.
Yeah.
We may not be. So yeah. I guess that, yeah. And then, you know, I guess that's my answer, you know, as far as where we show the arrogance the most is just like, come on, this is our home. It's like, if you just said, you know what, I'm just going to knock this. I live here, but I'm just going to knock that wall down. I'm just going to poke a hole through the ceiling and then think that like, oh, that's fine. You know, well, like I'm going to destroy my house and think that everything is going to be okay. Cause I feel like that's it. Maybe it's a bad analogy, but
yeah, I'm not sure how far I'd want to run with that one, but, so you say, let me see if I summarize it. Like, you think that when you look around and you see, you know, continued reliance on fossil fuels, even though the burning of coal and oil and that is contributing to the warming, which is then contributing to glacier melt, which is then contributing to, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of these things are, in a sense, in your analogy, are ways of breaking all your windows and then complaining that it's cold in the house.
Yeah, kind of.
In a way, right? Because when you break the windows, now the rain's going to come in, the wind's going to come through. If it's hot outside, you're going to be hot. If it's cold outside, you're going to be cold. You know, you're not going to have control over your environment, right? And well, that's a new thought. I'm thinking, you know, part of it is that we're trying to control the environment.
Well, yeah, and maybe it's you know, like, okay, well, it might even be I'm kind of thinking this analogy out as I go.
Oh, yeah.
Bear with me, but like, and like I said, maybe it's not the best one, but like, okay, so you did something that broke the windows. Now it's cold, but now I'm gonna do something else that's gonna fix it, but then that ends up kind of like making it worse. Cause like
well, it creates a different problem. You solve the problem of the rain coming in the window, but you create a different problem that's maybe now you've got flooding in the basement.
Well, like, and to kind of, I guess, tie that into like, say, like a real example is like the electric car.
Okay.
Is kind of sort of, I guess, what I'm talking about, because you have this, okay, an electric car. Great. It doesn't use oil or gas, right? So it's not burning and putting carbon
monoxide
into the air, right? It's not polluting
or
the
CO2,
air.
carbon dioxide.
CO2. It's not polluting the air, right? Okay, great. But now you have this issue with these lithium ion batteries or whatever. Now that's a whole nother issue. That's also an environmental issue.
Right, because now you're mining lithium. Plus you have the fact that what happens when these batteries are no
die.
good. And now you've got toxic lithium that you've got to worry about disposing of.
Right. So it's like, okay, we're trying to fix things because we're arrogant and we think we can fix it. Right. And really, in some ways, we're making it worse.
And that arrogance that you're talking about seems to also manifest itself in the fact that we think we can control the environment.
Period. Like just the fact that we think we can do it at all.
Right. We started, the Industrial Revolution happened, right? Nobody really knew what was going to happen, but then they started seeing some effects and, scientists being scientists, start doing things and they're going, hey, you know what? All of this, not so good for us. So then, you start making changes.
Yeah.
And now we're here thinking that we could because we could control production, right? We thought that maybe, I don't know, again, maybe we thought that, well, if we can control this machine, the earth is just a big machine. If we can understand how all the bits work, we can control it too.
Yeah.
Boy, if that's the case, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you think that human exceptionalism is the root of our environmental and political mess?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a simple one. I would agree.
It's pretty self. Yeah. My whole little speech, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, your whole life. That's
Well, yeah. Because even, you hear about like in politics, it's it's power, wanting power. People complain about both sides, because it's like, at least in our country, neither of the two sides, the two options that they manufactured our consent for, the two options that we have, we'll just say a large majority of the people, at least in the ecosystem that I'm in, there seems to be a large percentage of people that don't think either one is really doing what's best for the people. It's more just whatever I got to do to maintain this power that I have, which I think is also arrogance, because it's like I'm so important that I need to be in power,
Well,
just fear of, back to the last episode about fear, just fear of losing power. Like I had power at one time, and going back to not having power is probably scary.
well, yeah, but I mean, like the fact that we're so primed in our media environment to be afraid, then it like anything that we perceive as a threat to our existence or our security or whatever becomes that much more magnified, and then we react to that magnification, that happens in our head. Do you think that there's a resistance to not being special because people are afraid of what that might mean to be just one creature amongst all of Earth's life rather than something, elevated above?
Yeah, because I think like back to Ishmael, he even mentions like that, oh, you're living, what is y'all, tooth and claw or what, I forget exactly.
Oh, nature read in tooth and claw.
Yeah, it's like we've elevated ourselves above nature or the earth and all the millions of other species. And I think thinking about going back to that is definitely something like because it's like almost like if we accept we as in weird people accept that we're just one of the millions of species that live on this planet,
right?
That like, it's like you watch these nature documentaries and you see like the lions chase after and they don't kill the adults, they kill the babies, right? Because the babies are the easiest ones to get. And that's like, I mean, even me, that kind of sounds scary. Like, you're like living in this world where it's like at any moment, something could happen where it's like there's another animal hunting me or even, it's like, I think that just seems like chaos to us because because of our arrogance, we've tried to control our environment and control everything. It's like just leaving it up to the gods, so to speak, is definitely scary, I think.
Well, one of the things that I think about is the way that non-technological societies are portrayed.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen anything in media, in a book, on TV, that portrays a non-technological society in a truly positive way?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the short answer to your question would be yes, because we're basically told since we're little that we're special. Oh, you're so special. Oh, little Timmy, you get a gold star. Or maybe that's just my millennial generation, whatever. But like it was, we're told we're special from like such a young age. And I think that like if we went back to not being special, just being one of a million other species on this planet and actually acting like we're just one of the other species, that would make us not special. I mean, that was part of the whole like in the arrogant ape, it was like humans, I forget exactly what the phrase was, but it was like humans are special because we do XYZ. We have tools, or we have language, or we have.
And then each time it would be, oh, well, chimpanzees use their tools, and these have language, and bees.
Yeah.
Did you know that bees have 5 eyes? I didn't know that. No. It's just something I came across recently.
And it was funny because like, and kind of like touching on that, just seeing examples in the real world. Well, real world, TikTok. But anyways, I
would argue with that formulation.
Yeah, anyway. That's why I rolled my eyes and said, yeah, it basically like this guy who's a linguist, or he's actually a young guy who's going to college for linguistics.
Oh, okay, studying. So
linguistics. That's like his TikTok thing is linguistics, and he even said it that showed me the human exceptionalism thing. Is he was like, because somebody said that other animals have language, and he specified that they communicate, but they don't have language. Right. And it kind of reminded me of that whole thing, is that we define language in a sense that it only applies to us. Right. Because if in the bee, speaking of bees, the bee example, it's like the bees are communicating basically in sign language. I mean, if you haven't read the book, go read it. I recommend it. I'm not getting paid to say that. So I don't know, maybe at some point there might be a link in the description to buy it. But anyways, basically the bees communicate like where the flowers are by doing like we look at them and we think they're just flying randomly in these random circles and stuff, but ultimately they're communicating in a form of, I would argue, sign language, in a form of, so it's like, but no hate on this creator. I think he's actually a really cool guy, and it's a lot of interesting stuff that I learned from him. But he's just a victim of the human exceptionalism, just like we all are.
He's an example of, okay, so Christine Webb in this book, she's laying out this argument that says, okay, every time we're trying to define humans as exceptional, as unique, and of all the animals, this is what makes us more worthy of moral consideration, because of this feature. And then scientists are studying the broader animal kingdom and they go, nope, bees do that. Oh, okay. Well, then it's this feature. And we study the animal kingdom. Nope, octopuses do that. Okay, well, it's this.
Yeah.
And so your example with this linguist is saying that he's falling victim to that same mentality. Not maliciously, not because he's not ignorant. He's very smart. He's studying linguistics.
Right.
But he's falling prey to that.
He's still weird. He's a weird person.
He's
a Western
weird person,
educated.
and so he's going to. He's not challenging that framework,
right?
Okay, and so this is sort of what I guess what our so far. What did you say? We're on 23 now.
23. Yeah.
So this is what our 23 episode is about: is being able to say that you're not wrong for a particular stand that you take, but take a step back from that and say, okay, well, what story, what things am I accepting that I haven't challenged that lead me to frame things in this way?
Right.
All right, cool. So what do you think society would look like, Mark, if we saw ourselves as part of the larger family of life on Earth, as opposed to our exalted position that we currently inhabit?
Well, I mean, I think, that all that environmental stuff that I talked about, we wouldn't do that. Like, because, Ishmael puts it as we're at war with the world, essentially,
we're wrestling with it. We're going to beat it. We're going to beat it into submission.
Right. So, like, if we accepted that we're part of this larger ecosystem, that we wouldn't be polluting it and trying to control it, and all of these various things, and as a weird person myself, it's almost hard to imagine that world. Like, what would that even look like? And it's like, it kind of reminds me of Daniel Quinn talked about, like, not in the book, but like outside, is that he's like, I don't want to go back to living in huts, and, I like air conditioning, and I like,
I think he was based in Texas, and he said that. He goes, I like indoor plumbing and air conditioning and a word processor.
Yeah. So it's not like, we're not necessarily, anti-technology, and that we need to go back to, hunter-gatherer and just, but there has to be a way. And I like the one example from Arrogant Ape where they were talking about, looking at termites mounds as a way to build buildings.
She gave the example, it was like somewhere in the Middle East, where
it was,
they actually used the termite mound structure.
Principles,
The principles of that to build this building that required significantly less air conditioning and that
heating and right,
even though it's in a desert climate. Right. So you can, instead of actually use what we're finding in nature, rather than, because if we exterminated, if we just made the termite extinct by our action, then we would never be able to investigate their mounds and things of that.
All right. So I think that so it's like, Yeah, I guess it's like that. That would be the way we would act. We would act more in harmony and look for ways to work in harmony with the environment and the other animals versus just saying like, all right, this is what we want to do and we're going to do it, you know, be damn the environment or whatever. Like,
Yeah. Well, we're talking about arrogance. I mean, obviously the book was titled The Arrogant Ape,
yeah,
and exceptionalism and arrogance kind of go hand in hand. And what does an arrogant person or an arrogant attitude prevent?
Introspection, maybe.
Well, you know, some of that, but I was thinking, I know this question came out of left field. It wasn't in our show notes.
Yeah.
I'm saying that arrogance prevents learning from other people.
Yeah, that too.
Right?
You think
if you're arrogant, if you think you know it all, then
Right.
and if you're human and you think you're the top of the great chain of being, so to speak,
Yeah.
then the ability to learn from termites or from chimpanzees or from octopuses or from any of the other denizens on the planet, well, there's nothing we can learn from them.
Yeah.
We can learn things that will be useful to us,
Right.
but not actually learn from them.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that sort of, it actually kind of relates to the current technological world that we're in, that I've taken from Webb's work, is that later in towards the end of the book, she talks about the origin, the Latin root of the word consciousness, which is like being with.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I have two cats, you have two cats. When you're with the cat, there's a different you than when you're with your wife.
Right.
Right. And so that consciousness that comes into existence when you're with your cat is different. Right. It has, you know, and if you're tuned into the natural world and you're out there, you know, and now there's other life. And one of the things, and this gets into the kind of foo-foo land, you know, where people are hugging trees and stuff, but what are you aware of the changes that happen in you when you try to connect to these other forms of life?
Yeah.
You know, like, well, if you're just, well, there's one of my cats right over there. I'm looking at my cat. You know, now he's not looking at me. He's not interacting with me right now. So he's just an object in the room. But when he comes over and now he's looking at me and he's headbutting me or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm trying to communicate with this thing. And it's a different phenomenological experience that I think we prevent ourselves from when we look at a deer and all we see is venison.
Right.
Right. We don't see another animal, right,
that has some form of consciousness.
It's aware of the world around it.
Yeah.
It's eating, you know, and it's doing all this thing.
Right.
And rather than attribute that there is something it is like to be that, we just assume animal, it's useful, its head will look good on my wall with the, you know, the 8-point buck and, you know, or whatever it is, but it's not, we don't treat it as an entity. And to my
the way
you
you
of
would
thinking,
treat like another human.
Yeah. And to my way of thinking, we lose something there. You know, we lose something when we can't connect with other living creatures, you know. And if we can't connect with like cats and dogs and, you know, other things, you know, what does that do to our relationships with other people? How do we connect with them?
Right.
You know, and these are the kinds of things that come up in my mind when I really try to take her work seriously.
Yeah.
You know, and again, one of the reasons why I brought the book up was because when we had talked about Ishmael the first time, there were some questions about whether his assertions about the natural world were more fanciful than based in science. And it turns out that no, they really are based in real science.
Yeah.
You know, and so that then made his viewpoint a little more salient to me. It makes it more worthy of consideration as something to say, yeah, you know what, let's take a step back or two and look at the story that we're living in. Because if the story that you're living in is contingent, right, which means that you could tell a different one, and the one that you're living in has you afraid, has you angry, has you aggressive, etc., then, well, is that a good way to be? Angry, aggressive, fearful? No. So I don't think so at any rate.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but I don't think so. So I think it's better to try to tell a different story that's based in the world.
Yeah.
The world that we contact, not the world of the philosopher, right?
Right.
Not the, oh, this isn't really solid. It's
Yeah.
not the phenomenal world, the world that we actually, touch and interact with every day. That we can tell a better story that allows us to be more open to our fellow human beings, that allows us to say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't burn that forest down. Or maybe we shouldn't build a mall there.
Yeah.
Or not a mall, because we don't build malls anymore. But, whatever it is, we shouldn't build a factory there. We don't need another factory. We have enough stuff.
Right. Yeah, no, we definitely have enough stuff, for sure. We kind of reached the end.
Have we reached the end?
I mean,
we reached the end of the questions that we had
notes,
prepared.
Yeah.
Are we at our hour?
Not quite. That's why
Here's something that happened.
Yeah.
That actually it makes me sad. Bob Weir died the other day.
Oh.
He's the only surviving members of the Grateful Dead are the two drummers.
Oh, wow. Really?
Jerry's dead. Phil died last year. Bob died 2 days ago. And you know what? The reason that I bring it up, my generation is dying, Mark. He's only 8 years older than me.
Right.
Yeah. And my first Grateful Dead show was March 9th, 1980, or May 9th, 1980.
Oh, wow.
Nassau Coliseum, Nassau, Long Island.
Wow.
You know what?
Yeah.
Your mom and I went. She was pregnant with you.
Yeah. Just barely.
It's just weird,
Yeah.
And I thought, for 60 years he played music.
Yeah.
For 60 years he did something where people had fun.
Right.
And I think that the story that I want to live in is a story that makes more of that possible.
Yeah.
More concerts, more dancing, more joy.
Right.
And less fear and less anger and less just rushing towards, let's work our ass off all day long, come home, sleep, work our ass off all day tomorrow. For what?
For what? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's one of the things. It's like it bothers me about like the whole hustle culture in general. And I get it. Like I'm always hustling myself because I need money, right?
we all do.
But yeah, it's like that's not what like life. I don't think that even life was ever supposed to be like, so to speak. It's like, because I think about like, the levers and the takers, and it's like, we were born into this world of takers, and for a long time, I just accepted that this is how it's supposed to be. And
you don't know a different story.
Right. And then, Ishmael opened my eyes. And then, like, I keep talking about that the Lever tribe, basically. I forget the exact name of the tribe, and I really need to get better at that type of stuff. But anyways, like, people basically from this day that he spent with them, right? They wake up 5, 6 in the morning, whatever, dawn, right? They wake up at dawn. They get their spears and their bows and arrows and whatever, hunting tools that they have for like 5 hours. They just go out 5, 6 hours. They go walk around. They go hunt birds, rabbits, whatever, whatever they can get, monkeys, they're actually, monkeys was like their favorite food, actually, but whatever, anyways. And then they come home, after they're hunting 5, 6 hours, they come home, they eat the food, they chill, they hang out with their families, their tribes just all hanging out, sitting around a fire, eating, laughing, dancing, singing, whatever, just, it's like, it's not like we do. It's like when I talk about like, we shouldn't be working this hard. I'm not saying we shouldn't work at all, and basically, there's our latest comment on YouTube was just something that basically tells me that this person has no idea what socialism is, and is just like, it's just.
Oh, I saw that comment about that in capitalism, people work, but in socialism, nobody works.
Yeah, because it's like, it was like capitalism, you work hard and some people can win or something. Yeah,
you work hard and some people win, and then but in socialism nobody works, but everybody's equally miserable.
Right, which is it's a misrepresentation of capitalism, because everybody works, literally every single person, but like, it's very hard to live in America without any type of work, because you could sit there and you could talk to me about welfare and all that shit, but then that stuff, those people do not get that much money, period, right? Everybody works and almost nobody wins in capitalism. And when I say you don't know what socialism, you don't even know what it is, you're just listening to American propaganda, is one of the tenets of socialism is that everybody works. Everybody to their ability, right? I mean, even I read Angela Davis's biography, and one of the things that she mentioned in there is that, she fled America, because whatever, I don't blame her. She fled America and went to Cuba. And one of the things that she talked about in Cuba, they're socialist, communist, whatever, right? Sugar cane is one of their biggest export. Everybody goes to the harvest. Everybody. Well, it's like, I guess my point is I don't even know what my point is, but we all work. Back to your point that sent me off on this tangent is it's not that nobody wants to work. It's just, we need a balance, and we need more of like you said, singing and dancing and painting and things that in my mind make us human.
Right. We work, and and in a socialist economy, even in a communist economy, people work. I mean,
there's always work.
There are services and goods and things that need to be produced, and a society that needs to be held together. So, and all those services provided and what have you. So the idea that someone would say, well, socialism
Nobody works.
is, well, you want socialism so that what you can do is go to Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, et cetera, and take all their money and just give it to lazy people. That's socialism. And it's like, no, that's not socialism. It's not even any system that I'm aware of.
That there's nobody presented a system like that.
As far as I've ever encountered, right?
So that's a straw man.
One could say that, well, that particular comment was one of the drive-by, let me see if I can stir some shit up.
Yeah.
Kind of comment, and it's fine. I mean, I'm going to respond to it in a thoughtful way, saying, here's what we think capitalism is, and here's what we think socialism is. And if you disagree, then please come back with facts. But
I want to point out the fact that I'm not calling this person. I never once said this person is dumb or stupid.
No.
What I'm saying is what we've talked about is propaganda, Edward Bernays. We've talked about manufacturing consent.
Exactly, because you're sitting there and you're watching, you're listening to a podcast, you're watching your favorite YouTube channel or TikTok or
news
whatever,
or whatever,
and somebody is telling you this is what capitalism is and this is what socialism is, and you're sitting there going, yeah, and you feel informed. Okay, fine. Now you go out into the world, and this is where sometimes the world disabuses of bad ideas.
Right.
So they put it out there because they were responding to one of our little shorts where we're talking about the economic system.
Yeah.
And maybe socialism was mentioned. I hadn't actually gone to watch the little clip
which
that
clip
they were
it was. I
commenting
mean,
on.
but I know we talk about capitalism.
And so I'm like, all right, I'll watch the clip again to see what they're commenting on, and make my and I'll respond to it in the way that I'm trying to model, which is we're trying to have a conversation. We're not out here to argue with anyone. It's more, hey, if we disagree, let's try to find out, well, what story are you living in? What assumptions are you making about how the world works?
Right.
And then we can see, okay, now that's where we're different. We may not resolve the problem. We may not be able to, because you're stuck in your worldview and I'm stuck in mine.
Yeah.
But at least to be able to say, oh, okay, that's really the source of the conflict, not because you're incapable of understanding. It's just that when you walk through the library, you grabbed a different 100 books off the shelf than I did.
Right.
Right. And a lot of what I think that the stories, and that's why I think, we keep coming back to it, is a lot of it is that's pretty much how it happens. If you go to university in New York and somebody else goes to the same tier university in, say, Nebraska, and you exit with the same degree, there's nothing that says you read the same books.
Not necessarily, no.
Some of them, maybe.
Yeah.
But how the teacher presents it, what their worldview is, how they...
Because that influences how they teach the subject.
Right. And so you may have like a above average intelligence. You just may have been exposed to a set of literature and books and framings that make certain conclusions absolutely logical and coherent and consistent, but
right,
not what this other person is. And that trying to navigate that it's dicey, because we're all committed to our point of view.
Right. And it's the reason why, you can have the stories and the things that we've been told and taught and by the various books and people in our lives. It's the reason why, 2 people or 1 million people or 10 million people can look at the same video, for example, and come to completely opposite conclusions on what happened in the video. It's like, okay, video, I mean, without getting into AI and special effects, it's like we pretty much, assuming there's no special effects and no AI involved, a video is just a documentation of what happened.
Well, yes, you're absolutely right.
Right. Just a straight non-edited video it's theoretically the camera is just.
And if it's no sound, right? If you turn the sound off, what did you see?
Right.
Well, one of the things that you bring that up, and one of the things that, as part of my adverse childhood experiences, was watching something happen, like a fight break out amongst the family.
Yeah.
And then, I saw what happened.
Yeah.
You know, the precipitating event. You know, person A said something to certain B, who snapped back, and then a fight started, and then a lot of other people got. And then sitting there and watching all the different stories, because everyone's defending their point of view.
Right.
And after about 5 minutes or so, like, nobody is saying now what actually happened.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody's got a different version that protects their interests. And then what actually happened, like what the camera would have seen. It's like you want to put that picture on the table in front of everybody and go, you're not even talking about this anymore.
Right. And it's funny because I don't know, that's something I've been attuned to like my entire life, or at least as long as I can remember. Maybe like, I'll use you. Me and you went somewhere,
right?
Let's say last weekend, and something happened, right? And now today, let's just, we're at work and we're telling our third coworker, or that person is telling the third coworker. I can't even count how many times. And a lot of times, like my old friend Dexter used to say, "It's your story. I'm gonna let you tell it," which was his way of basically saying without saying that, I know you're lying, but that's fine. Go ahead and tell your story. That doesn't mean I have to believe it, right? But anyways, point being is that that I've heard people tell a story that I was at, and I'm like, that's not what happened, right? Because I have my own perspective, and it's not even like, that's not even close to what happened. And the 9 times out of 10, it's that thing you said where it's like, I'm just trying to make myself either not seem not as responsible, or making myself seem more important, or various other reasons why I'm telling this story in a way that, like, from my perspective, or maybe the actual video of it, had there been a video of it, would have told a different story, and I've seen it a lot, and it's just kind of funny because it's like you're looking at the person. It's like,
yeah, well, we went after Charlie Kirk, right? And I said, watch what happens. And sure enough, in the immediate aftermath, there was an explosion of stories, of different perspectives. And then there were different ones, gained a little traction for a little while, but now it's kind of condensed down into 2 main stories.
Right.
There's the official one, Tyler Robinson, gamer, got involved in some Reddit forum or whatever, and, just did it. Decided he didn't like Charlie and just shot him. And then you have the other conspiracy story that's floating around. Yeah. Right. And now there might be other versions that I'm not aware of, but they've coalesced into the immediate aftermath of the killing. Obviously, there was a lot that was hitting my news feed, so I was following that. But now it's been it was September, then that happened. It's January, so it's a few months later. So there's still people talking about it, but it's not bubbling up on my news feed. So it's like, I followed that thread when it was in my face every day. But now that it's not, I'm drifting back into the things that I am interested in.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, I think I think that about does it. Yeah. So,
what are we gonna do next week?
Next week, we're going to be talking about the comfort of certainty. Why humans prefer simple answers over complex truth, and maybe how that keeps the systems in place.
All right, so and that's good. Where we're gonna wrap up our little arc, right?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up our little.
This is how
we occasionally philosophical got here.
And so when we're talking about what's happening out there, you're gonna kind of know
how we got
how we're looking at stuff.
How we got to this perspective. Yeah. So anyways, thanks again for joining us for episode 23. If you've made it this far, you're the real hero.
Exactly.
Thanks again. If it, find it in your heart to hit that little thumbs up button.
We would appreciate that.
The YouTube algorithm likes that type of stuff.
And
from what
comment
I heard.
If there was anything
good, bad, or indifferent.
Good, bad, or indifferent, because I know that what we're trying to do is we're trying to open a window here to have a conversation that's different from the normal ones.
I would hope so. That's the goal, I guess.
Yeah, the goal is if you're tired of all the noise and people talking past each other, our commitment to each other is that we're going to try to listen.
Yeah.
And we hope you're doing the same. So give us a like, click subscribe.
Yep.
Hit the bell notification so that you know when a new episode drops.
Yes.
Which is going to be roughly every week. We're not sure when just yet, but it'll be weekly. We're working for weekly.
Friday mornings.
Friday mornings, that's our target?
Tentatively Friday mornings. So
all right. Well, we hope we can hit it.
Yes. All right. Yeah. That's a wrap. See you next time.